Sexy Jutsu goes beyond being a simple transformation. It's a reflection of how intelligence and emotional awareness can compensate for raw power. In a world like Naruto, where most shinobi spend years mastering chakra control, elemental techniques, and combat strategy, this jutsu stands out because it sidesteps all of that. It doesn't try to overpower the opponent physically or even outmaneuver them in a traditional sense. Instead, it directly targets their concentration, exploiting the split-second lapse in focus that can determine victory or defeat in high-level combat. What makes it even more fascinating is the context in which it was created. Naruto developed this technique during a time when he was largely dismissed as untalented and immature. Lacking the refined skills of his peers, he leaned into unpredictability. Sexy Jutsu becomes an early indicator of his core fighting philosophy: never approach a battle in the expected way. While others trained to become stronger, Naruto instinctively understood that disrupting an opponent's mental state could be just as effective as landing a powerful blow. Reverse harem jutsu. Reverse harem jutsu takes the original concept of sexy jutsu and pushes it into a more calculated, almost strategic extreme. Instead of relying on a single point of distraction, it floods the opponent's senses with multiple transformed figures at once, creating a moment of cognitive overload. This isn't just about attraction anymore, it's about overwhelming perception, forcing the target to process too many unexpected stimuli at the same time. In high-speed combat, even a fraction of hesitation like that can completely shift the outcome of a fight. What makes this variation especially interesting is how deliberately it flips the original idea. Where sexy jutsu is more spontaneous and playful, reverse harem jutsu shows a level of intent behind the execution. Naruto isn't just trying to be funny, he's applying a tested concept to a new situation, tailoring it to the opponent. That adaptability is key. It demonstrates that he's beginning to understand not just what works, but why it works, and how to adjust it depending on who he's facing. Its most iconic usage highlights a deeper truth within the series. No matter how powerful or otherworldly a character becomes, they often retain traces of human instinct. The fact that such a technique can momentarily disrupt an overwhelmingly powerful being reinforces the idea that emotional and psychological triggers don't simply disappear with strength. In some ways, it levels the playing field, suggesting that even god-tier opponents have blind spots that can be exploited if you understand them well enough. Human bullet tank is one of those techniques that looks ridiculous at first glance, but the moment it connects, you realize it's absolutely no joke. The user curls into a compact ball and launches forward at insane speed, turning their entire body into a spinning projectile powered by momentum, body weight, and brute force. Instead of relying on flashy elemental attacks or complicated hand signs, the technique is built around one thing: crashing through anything in the way like a straight-up wrecking ball. What makes it stand out is how unapologetically physical it is. In a world filled with elegant swordplay, genjutsu mind games, and massive chakra constructs, the Akamichi clan basically said, "Nah, we're just gonna steamroll you." There's something raw and intimidating about that fighting style. It doesn't try to look graceful or refined, it's loud, aggressive, and direct. The whole technique feels like pure controlled chaos. The Akamichi clan's entire combat philosophy revolves around using the body itself as the ultimate weapon. Through body expansion techniques and massive calorie conversion, they transform size and durability into overwhelming power. What's interesting is how the jutsu weaponizes momentum in such a simple but effective way. The faster the spin, the heavier the impact feels. Combined with the Akamichi clan's increased body mass, the attack becomes terrifying because it's basically a human cannonball with chakra-enhanced force behind it. Even strong defenses can get folded when something that heavy comes flying at high speed. Seeing a massive spinning body tearing through the battlefield is naturally intimidating. It creates panic and forces opponents to react immediately, because hesitation means getting flattened. Another reason the technique works so well is because it perfectly matches the Akamichi identity. Unlike clans that separate mind and body through illusion or strategy-heavy combat, the Akamichi embrace physicality completely. Fang over Fang is one of the wildest examples of how aggressive and animalistic combat can become in Naruto. The technique involves the user and their ninja dog spinning at extreme speed simultaneously, launching themselves like twin drills that rip through anything in their path. On the surface, it looks like pure chaos, two blurs tearing across the battlefield with enough force to shred rock, trees, or enemies caught in the way. But underneath all that madness is an insane level of coordination and trust. What makes the jutsu so unique is that it cannot work properly through control alone. The Inuzuka clan doesn't treat their ninja dogs like tools or pets, they fight as genuine partners. Fang over fang depends on both human and animal syncing their movements, timing, and instincts perfectly. If even one of them is off rhythm, the attack loses effectiveness or completely falls apart. That's what makes it deeper than just spin fast and hit hard. It's teamwork pushed to an almost instinctive level. There's also something intimidating about how synchronized the attack feels. Human and animal move like they share the same mind, reacting instantly without needing words. That creates the impression that you're not fighting two separate beings anymore, but one combined force coming straight at you. The jutsu also says a lot about the bond between the Inuzuka clan and their companions. In many stories, animals fight beside humans as assistants. Here, they're equals. The success of Fang over Fang depends on emotional connection just as much as physical ability. That shared rhythm can't really be faked. It comes from years of training, loyalty, and understanding each other naturally. Fang over Fang feels less like a formal martial art and more like controlled savagery unleashed at full speed. Ultimately, the technique proves that strength doesn't always come from standing above others individually. Sometimes real power comes from moving in complete sync with someone beside you. Shadow Possession Jutsu is one of the coldest techniques in Naruto because it doesn't rely on explosions, massive strength, or flashy destruction to win a fight. Instead, it attacks something even more important: control. The user stretches their shadow across the ground until it connects with the opponent's shadow, and once that link is established, the target is forced to mirror the user's movements completely. In that moment, the fight changes instantly. The opponent might still be physically stronger, faster, or more powerful, but none of that matters if they can't move on their own anymore. What makes the technique unsettling is the psychological effect it has. Most jutsu in the series damage the body, but Shadow Possession attacks freedom itself. Imagine realizing your own limbs are no longer responding to your will, that your body is obeying somebody else instead. That loss of autonomy creates panic fast. The victim becomes trapped inside themselves, fully aware of what's happening but unable to stop it. It's low-key one of the creepiest abilities in the series when you really think about it. Reason the technique stands out is how visually simple yet threatening it is. A shadow is normally harmless, something people barely notice. But the Nara clan turns that ordinary concept into a source of fear. The ground itself becomes dangerous because every step risks getting caught. That subtlety makes the ability feel even more sinister. There's no loud warning or dramatic build-up sometimes, just a shadow quietly reaching toward you. The technique also reflects Shikamaru's personality perfectly. Like the shadow itself, he moves calmly, patiently, and without unnecessary energy. He's not the type to overpower people head-on. Instead, he waits for mistakes, analyzes patterns, and uses the smallest opening to completely flip the situation. Shadow Possession mirrors that mindset exactly: quiet control over reckless aggression. What's really interesting is how the jutsu demonstrates that power isn't always about destruction. In many battles, the strongest person physically isn't the one truly in control. Mind Transfer Jutsu is one of the most unsettling abilities in Naruto, because it completely abandons normal combat rules. Instead of attacking the opponent physically, the user sends their consciousness directly into another person's body, temporarily taking control of them from the inside. The moment it lands, the battle shifts from fists and weapons to identity, willpower, and mental domination. It's not just about defeating the opponent anymore, it's about invading the very thing that makes them. What makes the technique so strange is how vulnerable it leaves the user. While their consciousness is inside someone else, their real body becomes completely defenseless, almost lifeless. That risk changes everything. Most jutsu are designed to protect the user while harming the enemy, but mind transfer jutsu demands trust. There's also something deeply eerie about the loss of personal control this jutsu causes. Imagine suddenly realizing your body isn't responding to you anymore, while someone else moves it instead. It creates a terrifying feeling of helplessness because the victim is still conscious, trapped inside themselves while another person takes over. That psychological horror is what makes the technique stand out so much compared to more straightforward attacks. The consciousness transfer travels in a straight line, meaning missing the target can leave the user exposed and completely vulnerable. So despite how powerful it is, the jutsu demands patience, awareness, and perfect setup. It's less about rushing in and more about waiting for the exact right opening. That strategic nature fits the Yamanaka clan perfectly. They fight smarter, not louder. The jutsu also explores the idea that identity itself can become a battlefield. In most fights, people protect their bodies. Here, the mind becomes the thing under attack. That changes the emotional weight of combat completely. Victory isn't always decided by who hits harder. It can depend on who understands people better, who can read emotions faster, or who can manipulate mental weakness more effectively. Summoning impure world reincarnation. This forbidden technique brings the souls of the dead back into the world of the living, binding them to physical vessels and the will of the user. It has roots in dark experimentation and forbidden knowledge, making it one of the most disturbing abilities in the series. What makes it especially unusual is not just its function, but its ethical implications. As it strips individuals of rest and uses them as tools, the resurrected retain their personalities and memories, which adds a layer of tragedy to every encounter. It stands apart from other jutsu by challenging the natural order itself, showing how far some are willing to go in pursuit of power. Hiding in a toad technique. This technique involves entering the interior of a summoned toad, using it as a living shelter or concealment space. It is associated with advanced summoning users who have formed deep contracts with these creatures. The oddity lies in the literal interpretation of hiding. Turning a living being into a protective environment, it blurs the line between summoning and transformation, creating a space that is both external and internal at the same time. Beyond its unusual concept, it reflects the level of trust and cooperation required between summoner and summon, where even something as personal as space is shared. Transformation Jutsu. This fundamental technique allows the user to change their appearance into another person, animal, or object, often with convincing detail. It is one of the first abilities taught to ninja, yet its implications are surprisingly complex. The strangeness comes from how casually it is used despite its potential to deceive and manipulate. It turns identity into something fluid, where appearances can no longer be trusted. While simple on the surface, it plays a crucial role in missions, infiltration, and strategy. It quietly underlines a central theme of the ninja world, where reality is not always what it seems.